Namaskar and welcome to this exciting episode of Sattology, debunking mythology. Sattology means science of truth or study of truth. Opposite of that is mythology, which means science or study of fake, lie, or imagination. So ancient Indian scriptures, Ramayana, Mahabharata are a historical fact I've proved in my books. And I'm also traveling based on my books all over the world. I just came back from Peru, proved that the Valmiki, Sugri's armies went there, as mentioned in Valmiki Ramayana. And that is the first recorded as well as physical proof of what is written in Valmiki Ramayana is a fact. I have a very, very special guest today. He is very active with the Indian American community, speaks for the Indian American community, highlights the issues of Indian American community. A lot has been done. I'm going to send you his link about him in this video, or Santa will be sending that link shortly. So we're going to talk to him about many things with India and USA, which all of you are interested. So let us welcome Sri Shalabh Kumar.
Namaste.
Namaste and welcome to the show. So Shalabh, one thing is really amazing. I said you are one of the leaders of Indian American community, and how you shape a kind of viewpoint about the Indian American community to the Americans actually. So tell me one thing, what are the biggest things which are going on in the last 1 year, 2 years, which has made the Indo-US relations, which are going so strong before that, a little bit on the shaky wicket for some time?
Okay, Adi, first of all, let me clarify uh, something here that I do not call myself an Indian American. I am a Hindu American. And the reason is that, yes, I am from India. So I guess that way I could be called an Indian American. But Hindu is a much broader term. In the United States, there are 6 million Hindu Americans that are not only from India, but from Nepal, Sri Lanka, Caribbean, so many other countries, Africa, Fiji, many countries. That is what Hindus are. It's like Jewish people. They do not necessarily need to be from Israel, or they could be anywhere from India or Europe. So I'm a Hindu American, and what is going on? Um, RSC, Republican Hindu Coalition, was formed in 2015, November 2015, after I studied Republican Jewish Coalition. And I saw a unique phenomena. I observed a unique phenomena there. That is, the number of Jewish people in the world is much smaller. It's only 15 million total, 5.5 million in the United States, but they are collectively so powerful, regardless of their political philosophy. They could be a Democrat or they could be Republican, but they are united in one sense, a Jewish community, and they hold so much power that is not much can be done by any administration or Congress in the United States to go against the interest of Israel. Where are Hindus? We are more than 1 billion Hindus worldwide, but we do not have the same kind of unity, and we are not speaking from one voice. And that's why the Republican Hindu Coalition was formed. And for whatever reason, a lot of people are Indian people hesitate calling themselves, or used to hesitate calling themselves Hindus. But 2015 and then 2016 changed all that. President Trump, or candidate Trump, at that time completely embraced the idea of Hinduism and embraced Hindu Americans. I became his spokesman on Hindu causes, and uh, and there's a lot of friendship developed. One of the very key one was after he was elected as president, he became very close to Prime Minister Modi, and U.S. and India relationship, U.S. and Bharat relationship, uh, uh, went in a completely different direction. That is, as we know, that Pakistan has waged 4 wars against India since 1947, and so American, let's say, policy towards that region had been tentative, both Democratic and Republican. So it was like a friend or not a friend or enemy or how to treat Pakistan. But for India, it's very clear that 4 wars, 1947, 1965, 1971, and then Kargil were waged, and so President Trump essentially adopted the essentially RSC's viewpoint, my viewpoint, our viewpoint, that is um, Pakistan, even though its population, we have many Pakistanis working for us in our companies, and I have a number of Pakistani friends. Pakistan population in general would like to be like India, uh, concentrate on development, not radical Islam. But unfortunately, the country is run by radical Islam, and President Trump took on the position. He had a very famous tweet on the very first morning of January 2018 that we have given, that is, United States has given $33 million or $billion, $33 billion over the past few years, and they still just harbor terrorists and no more. And so that became very popular in the Indian and Hindu community, and so that's what it was. Let's say you asked me the question, how it has changed in the last 2 years since Biden, President Joe Biden, got elected as the president of the country, and this thing changed significantly. Uh, that is because, for whatever reason, I don't really know exactly what the reason is, but uh, all in his policy, South Asia policy is run by uh, Pakistani Americans or Kashmiri separatists, led by Salman Ahmed, and so they tend to be anti India. That's what's going on, unfortunately.
When the Biden administration started, they claimed to have 55 Indian Americans. And I said Indian Americans for them because some of them are not Hindu origin also. They don't believe in that. He tried to show that even my vice president is an Indian, but she's not. She herself calls herself as a Jamaican more than an Indian. Actually, she claims to be Jamaican. Her dosa videos are out pretty much, but that's about it. Anybody can cook dosa. Many Americans cook very good dosas also. My
That
next
is,
question.
that's correct. Actually, she prides herself being a Jamaican or a Black American. That's
Exactly.
that's what she prides in. So once in a while, if it's necessary, some places she will call herself um, Indian, of Indian heritage. But I do believe I actually commented on that in 2020. That is, at heart, there must be something there with her as well, because I do admire her mother. That she was a true leader and a true patriot. So that somewhere along the line, that gene might come into picture, but so far it has not.
And even her grandfather, My maternal grandfather was a very devout Hindu living in Tamil Nadu. One question which comes in, like recently, the Indian politicians have been put under tremendous, what do you call it, a political ask. I won't say pressure because political ask to go against Russia. And it had been a recurring theme across all American media channels and even, right from the White House. Anthony Blinken also was on top of it. And recently, when the Russian foreign minister, which they regularly call India for everything because India is their ally in Asia, and there are a lot of pressure there. So, what do you think is the reason for this kind of pressure? And then I'll move to the next question later on. What do you think is the main reason for this kind of pressure by the Americans on India?
Well, America has a rivalry with Russia. That's obviously there. But I will take a little different position here, and I think uh, Shri Jaishankar and Prime Minister Modi are walking a fine line. Uh, we have to call truth as the truth. You know, what is the truth? Russia, a very big, powerful country, invaded a sovereign nation, Ukraine. That's wrong. That's just wrong. And I have no hesitation in stating that it's wrong. You know, many times I equate this to a situation. Let's say you have a friend, really an ex-friend or a friend, but doing something wrong. What do? Let's say a friend is bent on killing an innocent man. What do? What is your duty? That's Dharma should teach us what is our duty. So, that respect, I really admire the president of Ukraine. In fact, some of you might be might be a little bit surprised to hear that. I have equated Zelensky to President Zelensky to be equal to Maharana Pratap. That, you know, one small Mewad, small country, or not a country, a little region, standing up to against Mughals for so long, and so finally Mughals had to give up. So same thing might happen here. That the Russia is so much bigger. What is it? 50 times bigger in land and in everything, attacking a small, a little country, and eventually they'll give up because Zelensky is fighting like the Rajputs of Mewad.
You know, the question which comes to the mind is, like, for example, $115 billion have been sent to Ukraine, 115, and American taxpayers, and gradually the burden is coming on us, and in a bigger way, we are funding the war, and American weapons are regularly getting wiped out in the conflict there. And we are at a position where Americans are not able to produce enough to send it to them. Now, the worldview is a little bit different on this conflict. If you look at all the countries, African Union, you look at it, or Asia, look at it, it's a different view altogether. And for India, the relationship with Russia is important because it's a neighbor. Just above Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan is where Russia starts, which is a 2.5 hour flight from New Delhi, a 3 hour flight from New Delhi. And India is in a difficult neighborhood with China there, with Pakistan. So it's natural for India to stay neutral, very neutral, because it cannot fight with all of them at the same time. It has already got problems with China. Now, what do you think Trump would have done differently in this conflict? Because when President Trump was there, then there were no such conflicts coming out. Now we are seeing Haiti. U.S. troops are going to Haiti right now. Ethiopia, we have sanctions, and we are now gradually patrolling more. We are arming B-52s just landed in Australia to fight with China. So it's completely 4 years of peace, and now suddenly everything has broken out. And with the Ukraine, the background was Ukraine was a red herring right from the very beginning, red flag. No, NATO, it cannot join NATO, and that was the main issue. So, do you think the background also played a role where the leadership, stepped on something hot, which was not supposed to be stepped on?
Absolutely, I agree with you there. If it was president, the president has told us many times, including the September 7th uh, recording with NDTV, and then during our Diwali celebration on October 21st. That is, and I believe the same. We believe the same. That is, if uh, President Trump was in charge, Putin would not have dared. He would just not, because President is very stubborn. He is unpredictable. Putin could not have imagined as to what uh, President Trump would have done, and there is no way he would have attacked. So President Trump follows the philosophy of peace through strength, and Reagan's famous words: "Trust but verify." So that is what would have happened. And I do recognize that um, Indian military is heavily dependent on Russia, because there was obviously during Cold War, the United States was on the side of Pakistan, and Russia was on the side of India. And so, uh, uh, but at this time, we have to look at the situation, what is happening. I have no doubt that Russia has become a satellite state for China. It's going to be very, very dependent on China in future. China is going to be a superpower very soon, and Russia will not be able to do anything against the wishes of Xi. So that's the geopolitics in that region. So it is important for Prime Minister Modi and India to um, to kind of get out of that situation, a huge dependence on Russian military hardware. It will take some time, maybe 5 years, 10 years. Uh, uh, India could make its own. It's beginning to make its own um, military hardware. Get it from France, get it from Europe, get it from the United States. At least it's a democracy. And Russia will be very unpredictable. China, we already know how it will act, and there's no question the biggest enemy India and United States both have is China, because China has openly declared that their century of humiliation is over, and this century by 2049, that's their 100th anniversary, they will be the sole superpower on this planet. In fact, I am writing a book, which is, I think it's become somewhat public because the president on October 21st talked about it, is colonization of America. No, it's actually titled. I'm sorry. Let me get that right. Chinese colonization of America, 2049, and only one man. There's only one man who can stop it. That is Donald Trump, because he is not a politician. His first love is the United States of America, and so he's going to act in the interest of America. It does not matter. Other politicians have to be funded. They need money to run elections and so forth. And Wall Street has to cater to China, because unfortunately, one characteristic of capitalism is You have a stock market, and the people in let's say major corporations in the United States, they can think only a quarter, because at each quarter the result is going to be out, and their stock value, shareholder value, depends on what the performance will be, and that's very dependent on their interface with China, because still they get cheap labor, cheap products from China. So really, nobody's watching for the interest of America in that sense. Both political parties, and I will say that whether it's Democrat does not matter, whether it's Bush's, whether it's Clinton's, whether it's Obama, whether it's Biden's, it does not matter. All politicians from both parties are sort of, let's say, they are, I don't want to use that strong of a word, but they have to toe China policies internally. Externally, they might say whatever, but internally, that's what they have to do. So, just mathematically, if you calculate out, by 2049, China will be an $80 trillion economy, just assuming a 7% average growth rate. And US, right now, about $22-23 trillion economy at a 1 to 2% average growth rate. Here there are recessions. In China, there are no recessions. There, if the growth rate drops from 10% to 7%, they call it a recession. But here, when there's a recession, it's a negative growth. So anyway, let's assume 2% growth for US until 2049, and you take a 7% growth for China from the current level of economies, GDP. It will be an $80 trillion economy in China, and US at best could be a $40 trillion economy. So half the size of the economy. So just imagine then, half the funds for defense. So for obviously, China will become a sole superpower, and it can be stopped. It can be changed, but you need to have a very strong will and the sole interest of democracies, sole interest of America, sole interest of Bharat in that sense. And the two gentlemen who I know have that is Prime Minister Modi and President Trump.
So this question has come from the audience actually, and I'm going to just repeat it as it is. So Henry Kissinger said, "To be an enemy of the US is dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal." Is Henry Kissinger's quote. And so
It is quoted many times, it's a quote, but it's Henry Kissinger, when he did what he did, when he did, it was probably appropriate at that time, but he did not look into the possibility as to how China will take advantage of capitalism and remain and create a very unique system. So, we have operations in China as well. We sell to China. We don't. So what happens is we have a number of people who think like entrepreneurs. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, let's say, there were no entrepreneurs in China. But now there are millions of entrepreneurs. So they have solved that Russian problem. If there's no enterprise, no entrepreneurs, everybody's going to get whatever they, that's the basic communist philosophy is, that you get paid according to your need and not your talent. So all those communist, socialist economies fail. But China has adopted a unique system where they do incentivize enterprise. There are just hundreds of thousands of engineers who create small businesses there, and are very good at it and work, 100 hours, 120 hours a week, very hard working. So they have created that system, but they still, the one thing which they do not have is freedom. They've gotten a certain amount of freedom, but ultimately they do not have the freedom because it's CCP that controls everything in China.
So the question was not complete, but I'm going to ask the full question actually, which is the question is that China is regarded as a future superpower, but most Americans know is going to happen, the size of economy. So the question is, so the example is being set up that Iran, the current Iran Ayatollah was an American agent who was installed replacing the Shah with American support. And so all the places where Americans acted as a friend, later on they acted against them. So how the future leadership of America looks like, that the history shows, history is a great guide, you and I believe in history. So history shows us that the pattern is there everywhere. Like if you look at any dictatorship in the world was supported by the Americans. And Americans love dictatorships in a way. Saudi family is a very good example. Democracy is also easily influenced by Americans. Now, the question is, the person who is writing is a Burmese American from Myanmar, and she's saying that in her country, that the American influence led to calling the current junta as a pariah, but it was again supported by all American weapons, and Americans have brought them to the power. So, how do you think that the American leadership, which is which has worked against the friends more than against the enemies in past, in future, and it's right now happening? Haiti is a good example. Ethiopia is a good example. So, what is your view on this, and what does President Trump may think on this if he becomes the president next term?
Adi, one thing is quite interesting. I see when again a lot of theory is out there. People talk about, let's say, just general theoretical issues. Fortunately or unfortunately, you could say that I am very close to the seat of power. So I know how decisions get made and how the decisions get made, which may appear to the outside world in a very different way. That is, America does this and America does this, Henry Kissinger's philosophy and so forth. But internally, the decisions are driven on a very different way. That is, it's much more political decision than anything else. Once in a while, leaders like President Trump come on the scene and change things, but otherwise, it's really much more driven by U.S. politics. We have a situation here. We have a system which has its benefits and its drawbacks. Congressmen, 435 members, they have to get elected every 2 years. I mean, they don't really have much time to do anything except just raise money to get elected in 2 years. So it's very difficult for them to watch out for really national interest, whether it's Republican or Democrat. And there'll be differences, some differences, but that base issue is there. So how, let's say, Trump decides, President Trump, when he comes back, how he will decide to work, what his philosophy will be. It's America first. It always, under him, it will be America first, and that is what will govern the actions. And he does not mind uh, Prime Minister Modi, India saying India first, no problem. That can coexist. Um, but the policies will be governed by those philosophies of America first and India first.
Different terms are being coined. Very good answer, actually, and that should be the way. Every country should look for themselves, and this is a good thing. Good part of the democracy is that when you elect your leaders, you should look after your people first. Now, the the new world order, international world order, and the real world order. A lot of people talk about it. Now, from the American perspective, we already know that a favorable world is good for American business. That's why America is the largest, recipient of foreign direct investment in the world. Even today, it's almost $800 billion was invested in last 3 years in the US only. The other countries have received much less share. And also there is a talk about de-dollarization, which is a big threat. We all saw that any country which attempted to de-dollarize was bombed by the American planes. And it happened in Libya, it happened in many countries, it has happened. But this time, it has been happening in a very methodical way. Like there is a BRICS, which is bigger than G7 now. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Economy is bigger than combined economy of G7. Now, so how does the new realities now bringing a new world order or a de-dollarized world order, or will that American leadership accept it? Because this will be a challenge for any American president now going forward.
It depends on who is the president of the country. If when I'm writing the book, when it will be out in let's say next 6 months, that is Chinese colonization of America 2049, and the only man who can stop it. There will also be solutions in that book as to how to counter it, how to make this not a reality and only a dream of CCP. So de-dollarization and all that will stop. Is really not that difficult if a right philosophy, industrial policy is adopted by the United States of America, which we're going to work very hard for President Trump to adopt. He's already put in 25% tariffs, which Biden did not take away. But if for President Trump, which he promised in on the October 21st Diwali celebration with the Republican Hindu Coalition's leadership, that there will be sustained tariffs in the on the Chinese imports. That Chinese growth, that 7%, could be cut down to 5%, 3%. American growth can match that growth, and then that imbalance, which is happening, it will no longer happen, and then there will be no question of de-dollarization. It's the talk is there because China has done so well in their economy, their GDP growth. A $15 trillion economy today, and they're flush with so much cash, so much money. They bought Sri Lanka. They're buying much of Africa. So money talks. So when their economy slows down and they don't have that much money as compared to United States, then the things will be different. Then there will be no talk of de-dollarization.
The Russian sanctions on Russia, and also the foreign currency deposits of Russia were completely captured by the American Treasury. I mean, they were blocked to be accessed even for the international payments. Now that has sent shock waves all over the world. So which has the world has questioned. Not only India. It is a India has been quiet on that issue. African Union has come out in a very big way. Asian countries, including Middle East, Saudi Arabia, and all these countries have come out in a big way because they rely on that money in the American banks for buying or trading with the rest of the world. Now, those sanctions have jolted the world. So, do you think that these kind of sanction-based diplomacy works in the interest of Americans?
Well, Biden had no other choice. Either you're going to let. Uh, I mean, do you think I'll pose this question? Do you think it would be appropriate for the for Russians to just in 3 days attack Ukraine and just devour the leadership and the freedom-loving people of Ukraine and slave them? Just imagine what will happen if China did that to New Delhi. Okay, so at that point, Biden has no choice, and it has to put sanctions. Now, if it was put into that situation, and it was Trump, uh, they would have Trump would have ended the war in 1 week or 2 weeks if the war did start, and that suffering of 10 million Ukrainians will not have happened. So President Biden acted and put in a lot of money into this. That's taxpayers' money. Put a lot of money into it, but did not act decisively. So that's where the problem is. And now it's a long, prolonged war, which is going to happen. Eventually, that will be my prediction that Russia is just going to get tired of it, just like they did in Afghanistan. And so that's how this war is going to end. Russia does have a a huge oil and gas, you know, economy based on oil and gas. So energy wise, they are super important, and Europe is dependent on them. And that's kind of interesting. That is, if the world supply of gas and oil decreases, their economy goes up because they get more money for it. And that's why President Trump has made as his number one priority when he comes back, or as well as if the Senate House will turn to GOP in on November 8th. But if the Senate also becomes GOP controlled Republican in on November 8th, 2022, then the things will start to change. President Joe Biden, who is actually more of a moderate guy, but he's right now under the control of the ultra left. So things will start to change there. But President Trump has declared very clearly that his number one priority will be to make America energy independent. If America becomes energy independent, Europe becomes energy independent, all these things, Russian mischief will stop. So will stop.
Russia is not only the big in oil and gas, but is also big in rare earths. And many of the American technologies use those rare earth metals for many things, including the SpaceX rockets. Many of them carry Russian components even today, and they are being launched. Many of the American missiles use such metals from Russia, and so those are also there. Now, one question comes to the mind: was it the reason to create these wars? Now, Victoria Nuland, she's infamous for many things, and she has been one of the balkanization specialists, and she visited India, she toured India, and wherever she went, Rahul Gandhi is following her footsteps. He's meeting the same people which Victoria Nuland met.
That's correct.
So anyway, we can't expect much from Papu. So we can say that, he's just following that thing. Now, but uh, was it precisely the reason that Trump was removed, or ingraciously, despite winning a very one of the largest vote shares in the history of the country, that the wars have to go on, the arms lobbies which are not selling, when the wars are not there, not selling. Many of the viewers may not know that the Trump's 4-year period was the only period in which America did not start any new war. That was a in the history of the USA. That's the only 4-year period. So do you think was that the main reason why he was removed in the first place, though, because the wars had to start, or American arms industry was going down?
You see, again, this is what I in the beginning I said. A lot of people theorize things. There's no such thing like this. Okay, is basically what the situation here was. There is a lot of fraud in uh, in the elections in the United States. A lot of dead people voting, a lot of illegal people voting, a lot of driver's licenses out there which are not real residents or citizens of the country. Just since Biden took over, 200,000 people cross the southern border every month. So it's almost like 2 million people have entered the country. And so there is a lot of fraud in American elections. And due to COVID, this time it gave the opportunity for Democrats to have much bigger fraud than normal. For your viewers, it should be interesting to know that any Republican who wants to run in the state of Illinois, that's where I am, for a statewide seat, let's say senator or governor, they automatically have to take into account that there is going to be X amount of fraud in the city of Chicago. So they have to uh, take into calculation any serious campaign manager running a state Senate-wide campaign has to assume that there will be about 500,000, uh, call it fraudulent, call it whatever, votes that will coming out of the city of Chicago, part of the Cook County. You will have a 500,000 advantage to any Democrat, no matter what Democrat, no matter whether the Democrat even knows how to speak English, read or write or math. A Democrat will come out of the city of Chicago with a 500,000 vote advantage. So that happened a lot more in 2020, and that's how President Biden won and President Trump lost, even though he got 12 million more votes uh, than 2016. But the that was there were that many more votes from Democrats also. There's another thing which I would like to say, to just kind of point out, which the president has recognized that clearly. Uh, you see, even though there are so many voters in millions, 80 million votes, 70 million votes, the election in the United States is decided in the upper Midwest in less than 200,000 votes, upper Midwest, because of the electoral system. When you get Pennsylvania, you get Michigan, you get Wisconsin. So that's where the presidential election, particularly, that's where it's fought. And uh, in those states, there are close to 500,000 Hindu American votes that can decide the election. And the president went on the record on this October 21st in Mar-a-Lago in celebrating Diwali that he would not have been elected president of the United States in 2016 if it was not for Hindu vote. Now, in 2020, Unfortunately, we were not active. The campaign was misguided uh, from uh, from President Trump's side. A Republican Hindu coalition was sitting on the sideline. We were not active. The president has recognized that phenomena, and so I got a call this March of this year from president, and he wanted us to get back into the game. And so 2022 and particularly 2024 will be very different.
I'm totally right. The person who was, you're right, absolutely, because the person who was appointed for the Hindu campaign, I won't take his name, you know him very well, and he did not reach out to anybody, pretty much, and also not very friendly to many of the Hindu communities. Now, one last question before we end the show is looking at the inflation in the American society, and people are not able to afford homes in California, in other states also. California is a very blue state, so we don't expect much here. People vote for not living in a home, so which is happening. But rest of the country is also same situation. The gas prices, I mean, what is being produced by the gas companies and what is being charged to the customers is phenomenally different. And also there is a huge campaign on the clean energy, and we all know what happened in California was blackouts. I mean, there was a state uh, notification issued that do not charge your car, do not use power. I've never seen that notification. I've been living in California for a long time, not seen that don't use, control your, the AC should be off between 4 to 9 p.m. That kind of thing will happen, which happened, used to happen in India. And there were many blackouts all over the state. And due to the electric cars, because the grid was not able to handle that. So do you think what will change so that the regular prices for Americans also become more controlled, actually, because the inflation is almost 10% now.
Yeah, that is a result of massive spending. So, basically, inflation is a simple phenomena. Uh, Too much money chasing too few goods. That's what is going to cause inflation. Fortunately, America is able to bear it much better than European countries. Just look at what happened to Liz Truss in UK, and Rishi Sunak came in, and let's see what he's able to do. But their biggest problem is inflation. U.S. Is a much bigger economy. Inflation will start to come down. Also, if November 8th is a Republican controlled Congress, spending spree by the administration will stop, and you will have less inflation. But for some time, for 2023, inflation is there to stay, and not too much can be done about it.
Thank you so much, Shalabh for coming on the show and sharing your views on such important matters with very clarity. And I think this show was not enough. We need to have another one as a follow. So for all the viewers for watching also, and also for students for asking good questions, I covered most of your questions which came to me on my phone. And thank you, Sandra, and other people for hosting and moderating the show also. So please do like, share, subscribe, and you can widely publicize this video. And Shalabh, if you want to use any parts of the video, let us know. We'll give it to you. Thank you so much, and namaste.
Namaste.